everyone, this is Anna from Cat Realty, and today I'm going to talk to you about cultural clashes from America to Portugal and vice versa. So for those of you who don't know, Cat Realty is a relocation and investment agency that helps expats move and settle in Portugal. We work from a lifestyle perspective and help you find the perfect place and the perfect location for your personal desired lifestyle. We work with the legal team and technical team and make it a point to help expats make a better decision, which also helps locals by not inflating the prices. So I am currently in the US and this is a temporary thing. I am, because our business has been about 70% clients from the US, and I decided to establish a more direct relationship with the US and US clients. For that reason, I came to the US. And so this video is going to be about some of the cultural clashes that I experienced that I believe are relevant for people that would be looking to move from the US to Portugal. So the first one, and this one is something that I talk about very, very often, is the times it takes to get things done in Portugal versus the US are drastically different. So in the US, you are expected to get a reply in like 24 hours. Yeah, that's not going to be a thing in Portugal. Most business consider acceptable a week. And in a lot of places, it's actually longer than that. And it's frustratingly common for emails and contacts just to be ignored and for you to have to constantly reach out to companies to buy something from them, which I understand it's extremely frustrating. So that's one of the big ones. So there is a lot of things that I've noticed regarding the city layout. And the US is very spread out, I'm guessing also because it has a lot of territory. And I did a fair amount of travel within Europe, and I feel that the population and city distribution is completely different. So I would like to make some comparisons here. I have not been to a lot of US cities. I have been mostly in the West Coast. And one of the things that I noticed is that the cities, most of them, Seattle was an exception to this, but most of them tend to be really spread out with a lot of one-story family houses and not big apartment buildings. In Portugal and in most of Europe, the city centers tend to be a lot more concentrated with apartment buildings. And you do have some areas of single family homes, but they tend to be very restricted within the cities and much more common in the suburbs. And you also have downtowns. Downtowns of most cities are considered good areas. So they are generally expensive areas where you can walk everywhere and have a wide availability of public transport. And although homelessness does exist in Portugal, and where you will see it the most is probably Lisbon, it's still not nearly as bad as what I've seen in the US. And LA particularly shocked me on that, but in every city that I've been to so far, it's really, really common to just spot homeless people, sometimes just streets full of tents, which is completely mind-blowing for me. That phenomena, like the whole tent thing, it started happening somewhere this year in Lisbon, but it was due to the whole refugee situation, and it's not at all the norm. And I really hope they managed to sort that out, and they kind of started editing the immigration laws to try and make it less of a problem, because this mostly ends up coming from the low-income immigration to Portugal. Although it is definitely a fact that another big difference from the US to Portugal is that the job market in the US is a lot healthier, and you do not have good job opportunities in Portugal. So that's definitely a minus point for Portugal. And I do not particularly recommend coming to Portugal to work in unless you already have some sort of situation and job prearranged, because the job market in Portugal is not great and the minimum wage is not at all keeping up with the cost of living, which I understand is a similar problem in the US. However, we are talking about very, very different values. So the minimum wage in Portugal is about 800 euros. And truth is, you can live with that. Let's say that in order to live in Portugal, excluding housing costs, you can live with 750 euros per month comfortably, not lavishly, but comfortably. But when you add housing to that, that of course will basically double those costs. And although Portugal is definitely significantly cheaper than the US, so cities like Lisbon, you can still rent a 1-bedroom or a studio for like 1,500 in a fairly central area and go a bit lower than that if you go to the suburbs. And in Porto, you can still do like 800 to 1,000, I would say, although it's definitely also inflating. It's not nearly as bad as the cost of living in the US, which was definitely something mind-blowing for me. And all of this to say that although our systems and our supports aren't perfect, the homelessness is not nearly as bad as an issue as it is here in the US. And we do have public health system which does support, and a lot of free housing supports for low income, although all of the housing programs tends to be completely overcrowded and with huge waiting lists. There is still a lot more support than in America for those kinds of things. So although there are definitely lower income neighborhoods that are less safe and less comfortable, it's not downtown, and it's not at the level that I see in America at all. So overall, downtowns are good places to be, and once again, you have public transportation that actually works and gets used by everyone. So basically, no matter your income level, everyone uses the public transportation, and this is because it's very hard to park on city centers, and public transportation is safe. So even wealthy people, they don't want to take their cars to the city center. They will either take a Uber or take the metro. And you will see people from all backgrounds using the subway, and it's not like I've seen in the US at all. So that's definitely another big difference that I've experienced while here. Another thing that I experienced has been the quality of food. And that one definitely bothers me because I am a foodie, and you know, we are Portuguese, it's technically Mediterranean, the whole Mediterranean diet, variety of food. You do have a very wide range of options and different cuisines available in the US, but I find that the quality price of the ingredients is absolutely British. So it's so expensive to get decent quality meals and ingredients, and it's such a drastic difference. Like if you get 20 euros worth of vegetable and fruit and, you know, basic like meat, vegetable, fish, fruits kind of groceries, and I will do that experiment actually at some point and post it on the channel. I already discussed that with my agents, to see how much it gets you in Portugal versus the US, because it's crazy. Honestly, the difference is just astounding. And that's definitely bothered me because in Portugal, I'm used to just cooking my own food being a very cheap thing to do with very high quality ingredients. That's not the case here in the US at all. And I also noticed that the food itself is very different. There's definitely a market for organics, and those tend to be better, but they are also extremely costly. And I find that even our non-organic vegetables and meats and fruits are apparently better than here in the US, but this may just be like a preconceived notion. So I would love to hear some feedback on that, but that's definitely something that has been bothering me here in the US. So what else is important to talk about here? So definitely the healthcare system, which I already mentioned. We have free healthcare, and it's absolutely mind-blowing to me, the cost of healthcare here in the US. And I pay 90 euros a month for my private health insurance, and we have free public health. We pay 16 euros for emergency trips, no matter how much you have to do. And even people that are proved to be of low-income households don't even have to pay anything. And even on the private side of things, I've had 2 major surgeries in which the co-payment was 250 euros. To be fair, my insurance did raise up the co-payments, and they are currently 500 to 1,000, depending on the surgery, but still a lot better than in the US. And it's really, really stressful, because when I arrived, I came with a touristic visa, and I would only be getting health insurance once I had the business thing set up and got business insurance through the business. And so I have this period of time where I didn't have insurance. And I got an infection during this time, and it was just extremely stressful, because I was just thinking, like, I don't want to pay the ridiculous amounts that Americans pay for that health system. I don't even want to find out how much that is. And eventually I found out that there is these systems that you just kind of get an online prescription from a nurse or whatever, and I used that, which is a bit odd, because they didn't even do like blood tests and anything. Well, it worked. I'm just going to fly back to Portugal and get everything checked on the off end of things. But it does has an advantage for sure. We don't have those kinds of services in Portugal, and I do find that it could be interesting to have something like that to reduce the number of non-urgent care in the emergency rooms of these kinds of things that are fairly easy to solve. We do not have that kind of thing in Portugal at all. Everyone just goes to the emergency, either public or private, depending on what they can afford to do. And generally, like I was saying, everyone can afford to have healthcare. And it's just completely crazy for me that that's not the case in the US. And that's definitely a very big one. During this whole healthcare thing, I have also noticed that supermarkets have these whole sections of bottles full of medicine, like jumbo pills of Brufen and Benuron, which is just crazy. I mean, those things are supposed to be used on an emergency, not to pop 3 pills every day. That's like not how those medicines are supposed to use. It's really bad. You get resistances and overall make the problem worse, because you are just masking the symptoms of whatever problem you may have. I do realize that with the way that the US healthcare works, that I bet that a lot of people just end up doing that, and that's why jumbo pill bottles are sold in the supermarkets. But it's just mind-blowing for me, really. So those are definitely the big culture clashes that I feel. I think there are a lot of other things that I've noticed. Oh, one of them was actually the low-cost flights. I did have my bit of trial and error, and since I've traveled a lot within the US, I did a lot of flights. I think the cheaper one was about $100, and the most expensive one was about $350, and I'm talking just about internal flights within the West Coast, which I find ridiculously expensive, given that we do have low costs in Europe in general, and they are not perfect services for sure. You pay for extras for everything, and the planes are cramped, the hand luggage that you get is really limited. But still, you pay like 20 euros. I flew to Paris and back for 60 euros. And even to the Algarve, like from Porto to the Algarve when I was living in the Algarve for a few years, I often would get flights to Porto for like 20 euros. So the lack of availability of affordable flights in the US, it's also something that is quite odd for me. And especially given the high amount of demand and how there are so many flights that are always full. But I guess it is what it is. And I almost forgot about a quite important big culture clash, which is the way that payment and credit cards work. So that was one of the first things to drive me insane here in the America, is how you never know the final costs of things. There's always tax, service fees, tips, I don't know, whatever things. It's got to the point, like, when I tried to rent a car in the Bay Area, the initial cost said like $33 a day, which I was like, oh, okay, that's not too bad. So that would end up being like $500 for the period I needed. And then in the end, it was 800 because I had to pay insurance for this, then tax, then whatever other fees that they make up. So yeah, that's fun. And another thing is that hotel deposits and just the way that charges are made in the restaurants, it's so odd to me. Like in Europe, whatever charge that is made to your card has to be approved to you and done in front of you, and you put your little PIN number of your card and they make the charge. Here, you give them the card, they do whatever with the card, and then they can just randomly charge it for any amount that you don't even approve. Like I have, they tried to make me a charge in one of the hotels of $1,400 for a supposedly international call that it was actually a call to American Airlines toll-free number in the US. And they just tried to charge my card in the middle of the night for $1,400. And I was just like, how come you can do that? That would be so highly illegal in all of Europe. And even like I'm using this card that I basically charge, which definitely gives me a lot more peace of mind. And yet I still have currently about $750 on holds with my cards because of hotel deposits. And one of them was actually for 2 months ago, and there's this whole situation going on because apparently the bank in Europe is not communicating, and the bank in Portugal is not communicating with the banks in the US. So they say, oh, it's never been released. But then the US hotels tell me like, oh no, it's been released. So that's been fun for sure. So another thing that also happens is like I was saying, I use this chargeable card, so I only have the money that I need there, which does give me a lot of peace of mind. And there was instances where my top-ups failed, and then when I went to pay, the payment got declined. But the thing is, instead of declining it like a normal place would, or what I'm used to, which is, okay, it declines, you try again, and nothing gets taken, they take whatever value they can. So whatever value I have in the card will be basically put hostage. How is that possible or legal? So yeah, the whole cards and payment situations has been really, really bothering me. And even in restaurants, it's really odd because they first come with the bill, then you have to give them the card, then they take your card away, then they bring the bill back and you have to sign it and put in the tip, and you go away and they charge your card. Like in Europe, they will bring you the bill, you will pay in the machine in front of them, put your PIN, and that will be it. And yeah, so that's definitely a curious one. So I guess this will be the culture clashes that I'll be keeping to today, not to make this video too long. I would love to be hearing feedback for other people that experienced culture clashes when going to different countries or coming to Portugal, what were the things that you really noticed and you weren't expecting? You know, culture clashes don't need necessarily to be bad. They can also be good things that just work differently from what you were used to. So let's open discussion for that, and I'm looking forward for your comments. As you know, or if you don't, we post videos every week, generally about topics related to immigration and for living in Portugal. And you can also access our blog posts with a lot of useful information. And if you are considering moving to Portugal, feel free to check our channel on our website and www.savicatrealty.com or the rest of our social media. We also host free webinars that we will be doing every month for this year. So do keep in touch in order to know those, or just subscribe to our newsletter to get updated on all those kinds of things. And I hope that I will see you here next week.